formally in our caucus when we get together and discuss issues, and just informally over lunch, after 5:30, whatever. We're always talking among ourselves, I mean almost always, about how each one of us in the individual subject areas or departments of government that we have an interest, we can cut the budget intelligently, doing the least harm, managing pain the most fairly. And for me, of course, being, chair of the Judiciary Committee, I'm always interested in the judiciary, in prisons, in litigation that involves the state. And there are ways in which we can save money. Yes, it will do harm. It will do harm. But will do harm in the most responsible, mitigated, and reversible kind of way. And for me, there's a couple of bills, I think 3 of them, maybe 4 around here, that really exemplify that. Ways in which I have asked the judges, the courts, the counties, and the Department of Corrections to give up some of their budget in response to the greater good, but also to do it with doing the least harm. One in particular is a bill I've had for a couple of years. I've been pushing this for policy issues, and I think I've got it passed. It certainly passed the Senate, and I think we're going to have it in the House in a couple of days. And that's a bill, 5225, that cuts the sentences for the various theft offenses, not by cutting sentences, but by changing the dollar figures that differentiate in the different degrees of theft and other property crimes too. We set these figures in 1975, 34 years ago. They have, the consumer price index, inflation generally has ballooned in those years, and these figures have sat there. So a theft in 1975 that was worth $250 was serious business. It meant a felony. That figure would now be about 1,100 or 1,000, a little over 1,000. This bill changes that to 750. It doesn't quite pick up the whole thing, but picks up most of it. At the upper end, theft in 1975 that was $1,500 would have got you not just a Class C felony, but a Class B felony, good for 10 years. That figure would now be about 5,000, and we've got that. It's about 5,000. We've changed that to 5,000. The purpose is to take some of these longer sentences, higher felonies, change them back to what the legislature intended 34 years ago by simply making the figures more closely approximate to what those figures were. And as a result, some people that would have gone to Superior Court are not going to go to District Court. They will be sentenced. They are, if they're found guilty, they are criminals. They will do time. But we'll have them do less time. And I don't think personally that the length of a sentence is what teaches the lesson. It's being in jail will teach some people a lesson. There are some people for whom it won't teach a lesson. All right.
How much is the savings for that?
$9,028,000. Don't ask me how they figured out exactly $9,028,000. I don't know how many hundreds or pennies it is either, but that's the estimate. And I think it's about right on. It's something that I would be doing for policy reasons anyway. What I'm frankly doing is taking the fiscal arguments and adding them, adding the value or the persuasive power of the money saving, that $9 million, to what I think is a good policy argument anyhow. There's another bill in which we do pretty much the same thing, and that's Bill 6011. It's a bill that Senator Hargrove and I have that would take the entire sentencing grid that's under the Sentencing Reform Act. There's like a mathematical grid in which the two factors are how serious a crime is, and that's the vertical bar, and then how many prior offenses, if any, a particular defendant has. That's the horizontal bar. And in every sentencing, you refer to that grid. All of the ranges of sentences that are on the grid are going to be reduced under this bill. Again, we're going to do it responsibly. We're going to take the maximums and the minimums and apply some percentage reduction across the board. We're going to make some exception for violent crimes. We're not interested in giving violent criminals a pass. We're not going to give them any time off. But the people who are in for non-violent crime are largely in there for reasons that have to do with drugs in their lives. even those who aren't in for drug offenses are in because they got a drug problem. Many of them, not all. They need treatment. They don't need more jail time. Treatment costs money, and we can't do that this year. What we can do is reduce the jail time, which is excessive in many cases anyhow. And again, it's using the fiscal argument to make what otherwise I've been trying to do on policy arguments. It's helping. It's like having a fresh wind at my back, all right? There's a third bill. This is a much lower level crime. Doesn't sound glamorous at all. Driving while license suspended in the third degree, all right? Not a heavy offense. But that's the point. It's not something that people do with a criminal intent. Typically they do it because they're responsible. They don't show up at a court hearing, or they don't pay a fine. And we're not talking about people who lose their licenses and drive while their license is suspended because they got a DUI. That doesn't affect them. We're not talking about people who get into serious vehicle collisions because they're drunk or driving crazy. Those are reckless driving. We don't do that. People who just didn't pay a fine or failed to show up at a hearing. They're irresponsible. They need to pay their fines. Let's have them do that on a payment plan rather than put them in jail for a misdemeanor. Doesn't that make more sense? Not only is DWLS 3, that's driving while license suspended, third, an offense that involves no violence or no real harm to society, it takes up 1/3 of the caseload of the district and muni courts. We're going to reduce that by about half. It'll still take up about 15% of their caseload. But the savings to the courts and the personnel and the public defenders and the prosecutors, all of that will be several $1 million. We have a fiscal note that doesn't show that yet, but we're working on that. The point is, this is a policy decision. I've been trying to get these things done for policy reasons. I now have this fresh assistance of our financial situation to make changes I've always wanted to make. All my colleagues who are dealing with healthcare expenses, with college education expenses, with environmental protection and the expenses that go with that, they're fighting because they want things in the budget. I want things out of the budget.